listening to Maritime Morning with Andrew Krystal. Heard weekdays from 10 till noon on News 91.9. Now, here's Andrew.
This is Maritime Morning. A new magazine has hit the digital newsstands, Thursday Night Magazine. Adult film star Raylene joins us from Los Angeles. She is one of the stories in it. She returns to porn.
I was so high, I did not recognize the fire burning in her eyes, the chaos that controlled my mind.
Raylene says that the adult film industry is a trap for women, but yet returns to it. And now you're married with 2 kids, Raylene. How does your husband feel about this?
My husband and I are on the same page. We have an amazing relationship. You know, communication in a relationship is key, and I've never had something like I have now in my life. My husband and I talk about everything, and everything's always out on the table. And we're a little bit freaky like that, where, you know, it's turned our sex life into this amazing thing, because after having the baby, it was a little bit slow, you know, just like most women that have had children. You know, it takes you a year or so to get back into the swing of things, but it's taken me a little longer. So it's actually kind of worked for us. So I'm pretty happy with that. Good sex is great.
1-877-801-TALK, 405-6000. Vince Eisner is also a writer with Thursday Night Magazine. Vince, tell us about your story.
Well, you know, I'm happy to say that...
Are you on speaker?
Yeah.
Get off speaker.
No, I'm not on speaker.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You know, I was happy to be part of Thursday Night Magazine. I remember meeting with Paul when the idea was just an idea on a napkin in a restaurant, and it's thrilling to see how it's all come together.
Vince, can I ask you something? What kind of microphone are you using? Are you a hands-free unit or something?
No, it's not, but I can call on another line if you like.
Yeah, if you can, just quickly. So I just want to get a better sound there for the listeners. Paul, you want to add to what Vince was saying or talk about Vince's story?
Yeah, my whole life, I've been in journalism for many, many years. I worked for, many magazines, many newspapers, many radio stations, TV stations, and I've done communications. And I've always said to myself, throughout the years, ever since I was in my early 20s, I always said to myself, every time I covered a story that was big, that was controversial, and this goes back to me being in Toronto. I remember when they were on the hunt for Paul Bernardo, the serial killer. And I said to myself one day, I was in the newsroom, if I owned my own radio station or I owned my own newspaper, how would I cover this story, or how would I instruct others to cover fairness in journalism? And I've always said that to myself. And most recently, I'm doing my PhD right now at the University of Reading in the United Kingdom. When I looked at how Al Jazeera, the BBC, and CNN covered the Israel-Lebanon war, I've been in stacks of libraries, among stacks of books. I've been in front of film footage.
So you want to? It's interesting when you control the levers as opposed to have everything served for you. You actually getting into the kitchen and making your own pizza. Vince Eisner, tell us about your story, can you?
Sure. Paul and I talked a few months ago, and I told him that I was going to be part of an interreligious delegation traveling to Cairo, something sponsored by the National Peace Foundation and the Islamic Society of North America. Said we'd be going to Cairo and Doha, Qatar. And Paul said, well, why don't you do a piece, An American in Cairo? And I said, sure. But I have to tell you, when I got to Doha, Qatar, there was so much to write about that I called Paul and I said, listen, I want to do something on Doha. He said, sure, go right ahead. This piece is I'm calling it Dawn in Doha. It is all about breaking all the stereotypes of the typical Islamic tiny monarch in the Middle East. And I found it fascinating. I found it one of the most progressive places I've ever seen.
All right, let's go to you, Steve McNeil, Thursday Night Magazine co-owner. Tell us about Noam Chomsky, the political critic, the academic luminary, also serves up an article in Thursday Night Magazine. Tell us about it, Steve.
Well, as you greatly said, I mean, this is an extraordinary person to have involved with our magazine. He's an academic and who has great importance across the globe, and it also speaks to the quality of our publication and the diversity of our publication. And if Paul had some thoughts on this, I'd like Paul to introduce.
Noam Chomsky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been in touch with Noam Chomsky for the past few years. Actually, Noam Chomsky and I had been in dialogue since I was at St. Mary's a few years ago when I was doing my master's. I did my master's on how the media covered the Burnt Church fishing dispute, and that's when Noam Chomsky and I connected. We've been connected since. And it's a good relationship to have. It's a great relationship to have. And, to have him in our magazine talking about Gaza, talking about how Barack Obama may or may not, during the interview, he had hinted that Barack will make some move to challenge what's going on, with, Israel and what's happening in Gaza. And it's a real honor because not a lot of startup magazines have Noam Chomsky in their magazine. He's considered the greatest intellects of our time, and just to get an email from him, to get a story from him, to talk to his staff, to talk to his writers is a complete honor.
Paul, thank you for that. I want Raylene, you get the last word on this. Steve McNeil has joined us from Thursday Night Magazine, as has the other co-owner, Paul Fitzgerald. Vince Eisner, also a writer, brings his worldly travel perspective to the publication. Raylene, adult film star, returning after an 8-year absence, this time married with 2 kids. You're about to look after your 2-year-old, Raylene?
I am. He should be up any minute, and I have to take him to preschool.
Best of luck with things. Thank you, folks, for joining us today, and good luck with Thursday Night Magazine.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time out on me. Have a great morning.
Raylene from Los Angeles, and Vince Eisner, Paul Fitzgerald in transit to New York City, and Steve McNeil in Halifax. Thomas Young, what is on that fabulous afternoon news broadcast?